Welcome to our newly revised program, Elevating Our Stories. For this edition, our focus is elevating our stories of communities. It's a new year and we have a new way to connect with you as part of CAN TV's Graded 8 lineup. We'll hear more from Darius Hillman later in the show about that lineup. I'm Principal Director at Elevate, Sylvia, and I'm your host for the premiere of our new monthly news magazine. Each month, we'll bring you a big story about Elevate's collaborative work on climate equity. That is, making the benefits, services, and careers of the clean energy economy available to everyone, especially those often left behind. We'll share a fun how-to tip to help you save money and to keep your home healthy, and look at employment opportunities and meet people with dream jobs in the clean energy economy. But first, let's get started and welcome Rachel Schy. Rachel is my colleague and Principal Director of Research and Innovation at Elevate. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you for having me, Sylvia.
It's so good to have you here and to help launch this new series. We're delighted. But let's start with what you do at Elevate. Tell us a little bit about your role.
Thank you. My role at Elevate, as you said, is Principal Director of Research and Innovation. And in that role, my team researches, incubates, and demonstrates new initiatives for the organization that brings the benefits of clean energy economy to those who need them most, and really helps drive investments into the clean energy economy.
And when you say incubates, do you do pilot programs, you test things? Say more about that.
Yes, absolutely. We have a whole staff that develops and designs and implements energy efficiency, water, workforce programs. And my team does the groundwork at the beginning. Before we launch a program, we want to test it out. We have an idea of something that might work. We have collaborations and partnerships with others across the country. And we incubate and we see what works. And then sometimes they become programs.
Oh, that's a great explanation. So in addition to that, you're here today to talk about the Community Profiles Initiative. What's that?
Oh, this is a project that's very near to my heart. The Community Profiles are case studies of Chicago communities that quantify and showcase the energy efficiency savings, carbon savings, money savings of homes in specific Chicago communities for energy efficiency retrofits, heat pump installations across the entire housing stock. And that is primarily single family and 2 to 4 flats, existing homes in Chicago, which is where the city needs to focus on if they're going to meet any of their climate goals.
Okay, that makes sense to me. You want to work in areas where there's density and where people live in multiple unit housing primarily. Talk a little bit about the types of housing stock. Describe the ones that the types that you are exploring.
Sure. So we focused on 5 most common housing types in Chicago, which represents 93% of the building stock. So these are our older single family and 2 flat homes. They are the vernacular architecture, the common architecture of pre-1942 workers' cottages that are brick or masonry. They're smaller. The iconic Chicago bungalows that have those beautiful octagon windows, also pre-1942. Then we also have the mid-century ranches that were built between 1942 and 1978. And you see those, dotted in the outer areas of the city. And then you have 2 to 4 flats, which are both frame construction and brick construction. these naturally occurring affordable housing are across all of our communities. And we're very excited that the city is focusing its retrofit and upgrade programs on this very, very important housing stock.
And retrofit means that you're helping to make the homes more energy efficient?
Yes, that's
saving
correct.
money?
That's correct. So what we did is we looked at 2 energy efficiency packages that include air sealing and insulation of the homes, and that would be in the attic and in the walls when appropriate, as well as the HVAC systems, the heating and cooling systems of these homes. And the main driver of the savings with this potential that we found across the city of Chicago is because of the heat pumps and the efficiency measures. And this is really important for the city of Chicago because it really shows that we can improve the quality of our homes as well as reduce the energy burden on households, meaning that you're not going to spend more money on a monthly basis when you put a heat pump into your home. And this is really important.
Well, it's also important because heat pumps are new for many people. And so by doing this kind of initiative where you test and you take it out into real world application, it's making it easier for everyone eventually to know about it and to switch over as needed. What is the biggest driver? Like, why does this work matter? I know climate change is coming for all of us, and you've alluded to the city and efforts to make change, but why is this so important?
Yeah, it's really important to improve our existing housing stock to increase housing stability. I mean, people are having, a hard time affording their housing as rents go up, as
utility bills go higher.
Property taxes, etc. The city and its residents really need to cut costs and to improve their homes in order to make them more resilient for climate change. And our existing housing stock has been around for 100 years and is really sturdy. They don't make them like they used to, and have had generations of families live in them. So to me, increasing housing security and energy security are really linked.
Well, that makes sense, and I do love the fact that in a world where we often like something new, that you see the value in these homes that are sturdy, that were well made, that have a link to a family's generational wealth. And if you have retrofits and upgrades, you're able to live comfortably in those homes and save them for your family. It's a source of wealth. I want to ask about extreme weather and make that connection because one of your colleagues had worked with us for a special on extreme weather during the heat waves, but we have extreme cold as well. How does this research tie into helping people weather extreme weather?
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to heat pumps have the ability to provide both heating and air conditioning to homes. And Chicago has much less central air penetration than the rest of the country.
And that means fewer air conditioners.
Exactly. 77% of homes don't have adequate central air conditioning. So as extreme weather events become more frequent and more intense, to be able to help build the thermal resilience, meaning the ability for a home to retain its heating and cooling longer, and to have air conditioning where they didn't have air conditioning previously, is vitally important.
Yeah.
There's some additional, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
There's-
We have about 30 seconds.
Okay, there's some additional benefits too. Indoor air quality and healthy indoor air is really important as well.
Well, we can talk in the future about the connection to asthma and all of those things and the health challenges associated with being too hot. And we know that history in Chicago. But as we wrap up our visit together, it went by too quickly. What is the most important thing that you want to leave people with? What should they know?
That the climate change is exacerbating the weather, and the weather events are going to be more frequent and more intense, and it's very important for us to ensure that we are making the home quality investments in the homes that are going to be, and the people who are most vulnerable to the effects of climate change.
Well, thank you so much, Rachel. I know that you have lots of information available on our website, elevatemp.org. Now I'm inviting our audience to stay tuned for a dynamic duo with news you can use. But first, don't miss No Climate, No Equity, No Deal. It's the story behind the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act. It was an official entry into this year's One Earth Film Festival. A lot of our colleagues are part of it, and you can watch it online. Stay tuned.
Hey everyone, I'm Amrit Such, Communications Associate at Elevate, with some how-to tips on keeping your home warm in the winter. We're going to do this differently. I'm going to introduce you to Ernie the Elevator, Elevate's official mascot. Take it away, Ernie. Thanks, Amrit. Hey folks, here are some tips on keeping your home toasty this winter. 1. Welcome the sun. Opening your curtains and blinds during the day allows the natural warmth of the sun to heat up your home without turning up your thermostat or spending a dime. 2. Cover windows at night. Windows let natural light and warmth in during the day. However, their lack of insulation can allow 25% of your precious heat to escape your home at night. How do you stop heat loss through windows? It's as easy as allowing your curtains to insulate windows by closing them at night. 3. Use LED lights for decorations. Not to brag, but LED light bulbs like myself use about 75% less electricity than traditional bulbs, helping you save money on your electric bill. We also last 25 times longer, so you spend less time replacing us. That's it for our how-to. Back to you, Amrit. Thanks, Ernie. That was some valuable information. Back to you, Sylvia.
Thanks, Amrit, and nice to meet you, Ernie. Speaking of news you can use, Darius Hillman, CAN TV's executive director, is here to tell us more about the Graded 8 lineup. Welcome, Darius. What an honor, and I am just thrilled to meet you. I fell in love when you walked in the studio.
Listen, you know this is mutual admiration. I feel I've watched you. You were one of the shows I watched when I was even making the consideration of joining. So that I get to sit here right now and go, thank you for years of service, but welcome to Graded 8. Let's get this started. It's thrilling. This has just been the ride of my life. Every day, this little kid from the east side of Detroit who learned to get over his lisp and stutter by watching Beverly Payne on the 12 o'clock news when he was in kindergarten.
Oh my goodness,
watching that beautiful black woman, you know, because you're in business, and just mouthing before Young and the Restless with Katherine Chancellor came on, doing just, my babysitter was horrible at her job. Oh, but it worked out. And then to find myself all these years later with this opportunity, I'm not missing a thing. I am in such conscious consideration every day here that I get to do this. And I get to sit with folks like you and be supportive of the work you're doing, which lines perfectly to what I'm very clear about the vision and the value proposition of CAN TV as we step into our next 40, it matches perfectly.
Well, I love it. You said some things that we'll have to touch on in future conversation. I love consciousness. I love mindfulness and intentionality. So what are your intentions with Graded 8? Tell us about the lineup and what you hope to achieve.
I'm going to take a half step back. We launched last September signature programs, so 5 nights a week, Monday through Friday, at 7 o'clock in Chicago. There is hyper-local television, well-produced, focused on the community with community voices, with folks like you who we can look at and go, I know her, I've seen her at the Jewel. We started that at 7. The audience response from our community was so strong, we moved to 7:30. And now, the audience is saying, more please. And we went, we've got more. We're going to call it Graded 8. So when you're done watching Signature at 7 o'clock, local television connected with your community, we're going to continue that. So we're going to start Wednesdays Graded 8, which Elevate is a part of. And again, my mom and dad would always say this: when you start something, you put your best foot forward.
Oh, please.
So, again, the conversations, I've watched this show, and part of what I've done here, I tell people, I'm very good at curating. I don't create magic, I make room for it, and it's my joy to go, how do we elevate? So Graded 8 is really harnessing this magic and saying to our community, every Wednesday, 8 o'clock.
And tell us, who are the other programs that we're sharing the lineup with?
You are going to be, and it's an incredible array, and it's some of the history of CAN TV. So it's Elevate, joined by Chicago Money Show, and I think that's the newest member, been with our family about 2+ years, but then Special Olympics and Adapt.
And Adapt, I have a history with. They grew out of Access Living, part of the independent living movement, and the great Marka Bristow, who was an incredible activist. So there's a lot of history there. Well, we want to thank you for honoring history, for coming to town and getting it, and being the keeper of the flame here at CAN TV. I hope you'll come back and visit us sometime soon.
I will, thank you.
Thank you. That is Darius Hillman, everyone, the new director here at CAN TV. He's styling. If you could see his shoes, you'd say, oh my gosh, I know that guy. Welcome. Thank you so much. And now let's take a look at another video from the team at Elevate.
Doing this kind of environmental work, it takes a lot of very active hope, because every day we see 1,000 dismal stories about the climate and problems we're not going to be able to solve in our lifetime.
There is no education in places that lack water for girls. And if there's anything I care about in the world, it's little girls and the ability for them to have a real life.
With strangers or friends or family, we all can relate to it. We have all been awed or devastated by the power of the weather, and the weather moves around the globe. So what affects one community across the globe will eventually affect us in our local regions.
To answer your question directly, it wasn't, like I'm extra interested in environmental issues one day, or I studied that in college or anything. It was literal my life that was happening around me, and then finally growing up and realizing what to call it, and that created the interest. But for me, I don't even call it an interest, because it's like very much so a life or death thing. It's like, this is a thing. Like, this is my life.
And oppressive systems function and do the most harm is when they are able to erase history. When you erase history, you erase, movements that have come before. You make people feel ungrounded. So I think it's really important, and it's important to me in my work to highlight history.
So many of the causes are these environmental factors. So over the years of marching, being in coalitions, having rallies, having meetings, having event spaces, because that's a lot of what Let Us Breathe does, is make space for movement to gather, to join, to coalesce, to see itself. A relationship to land was always coming to the forefront. And so that translation of like land sovereignty, then I think translated to us being more legible of this larger tradition of EJ work.
Thanks for joining us for the premiere of Elevating Our Stories, and this time it was our stories of communities. Thanks to Rachel Schy, Darius Hillman, what a new treasure for CAN TV, my co-host Amrit Such, and Ernie the LED light bulb. And thanks to everyone who made this program possible. I'm Sylvia Ewing. See you next time. And until then, follow us on social media and be well.